Let's go. Let's get this show on the road here today. On this Thursday in the Bureau, the Mississippi Farm Bureau Insurance Studio, Farm Bureau Insurance. Go! With the home team. They are your home team at Farm Bureau Insurance all across the great state of Mississippi. It is the start of championship weekend. Yes, indeed it is. You're going to have high school championship football right here later on today. Well, here on this radio station. You have a game and then another game. 2 tonight. Well, look it up. I know you have the 7A game tonight. What's the one before it? 3A? We'll find that out later. Now, just a minute ago before the show started, I can't give you the details, but I was really drawing a laugh from a conversation that Beaver and I had. And that, again, without any details in it, just to let you know that, like, the moral of our conversation, what we drilled it down to, and I think this is just a good way to start the show, a blanket statement. You don't want to be the person for whom people at work have to, quote unquote, idiot proof everything for. It was just funny. Like, that's, you know, some people have to idiot proof. You don't want to have to be someone that everything has to be idiot proofed for. But I digress. So get on in here today. I'm going to get to your texts, your comments, your phone calls. We'll get to those coming up as well. We not only do you have high school state championship football today, the MHSAA stuff that starts today. You have it tomorrow. You have it Saturday as well. So 3 days of it because you've gone to 7 classifications. We're coming off a night where State beat the tar out of a top 20 basketball team. State's basketball team looks good. And don't overlook it, but I'm going to tell you, Ole Miss's looks good too. They beat the tar out of somebody 2 nights ago. And the SEC as a whole beat the tar out of the ACC and the SEC-ACC Challenge in men's basketball. So you got that. Yeah, I mean, you're what, now on Thursday, you're still not 48 hours removed, but you're a couple of days removed from the new college football playoff rankings that have come out. And people continue to talk and talk and talk. I noticed that yesterday. A lot of talk from Lane Kiffin and a lot of talk from Shane Beamer at South Carolina. And, you know, again, it wouldn't be fair to try to, I don't know, sum that whole thing up with something that's a little bit, what's the word? Oversimplified. You know, it wouldn't be great to just oversimplify everything. But I did have this thought yesterday after, you know, another quote pops up on TV from Shane Beamer. And, you know, you look up college football over here on X, and then here's another thing from a Lane Kiffin press conference about the committee and all this. And I just had this thought. You go, you know, you had 12 games. I mean, you have 12 games in the regular season. That ought to be enough, right? You know, again, if you're in the SEC and you're in the Big Ten, 12 games is enough. Now, I will agree, and maybe we get into this today too. I'll just throw it out there. But I will agree maybe with something that Shane Beamer was hinting around at, that they need to get away from the idea of scheduling tough. You know, with what the committee is showing you right now, under no circumstance, none, should the SEC consider playing more games. Now, if I'm approaching that conversation just from my own interest, like for me, my entertainment, and I'm saying that's all I care about, well, sure, I want to see more SEC and SEC games. I don't care about Alabama versus Mercer, and I don't care about Ole Miss versus Furman. I wouldn't watch them if you strapped me into a chair and sat me on the sideline, I'd close my eyes. You really, like, I don't care about that. But if you are looking at it purely from a what is the most advantageous way for SEC teams to schedule, to get into, have the best chance to get a bunch of teams in the playoff, you know what you do? You do not consider playing more SEC games, and you got to get rid of this mandate that the SEC has in scheduling Power 5 non-conference opponents. Get rid of that. You could take Wake Forest off of Ole Miss's schedule, and they still would have a tougher strength of schedule than SMU. Right? Right. So you got to, if this is what they're going to do with the 12-team playoff and expanded playoff, and probably go to more, right? They're going to probably go to, 2026, expand it again or rearrange it. To heck with feeling as though you are all the way back in the Mike Slive days of being mandated that an SEC team must schedule at least one game against a Power 5 in the non-conference. I'm sorry, that's out. That's crazy talk. Because they're obviously not looking at who you beat. They're simply looking at the number of losses that you have. Get rid of it. Why on earth would you consider playing more SEC games? The only way you do it is if TV tells you to do it. But, yeah, I think all those things are valid discussions that are going on right now. Okay, let me set it up. I'm coming to your comments on the live stream, also on the text line, the Country Pleasing text line. Country Pleasing sausage on grocery store shelves all around the Southeast. It's the best. I got some jalapeno and cheddar going in there right now. Well, not cooking, but I mean, I've got it in there. I'm going to eat it later on. Number to text the show, 885-3776. Got it? 885-3776. You can also call me on the Davini phone, Davini Equipment in Madison and in Jackson. The number to call is 897-1059. That's 601 number. Now, over here on Facebook, Jack says, go Waves. Now, he might have intentionally had that as plural waves because you could root for the Tupelo Golden Wave tonight at 7:30 in the 7A championship game. They are taking on Brandon. 7:30 p.m. kick time for that one tonight. That's one wave. And then tomorrow night, Friday night, the late game, the 7:30, involves the West Point Green Wave. So waves, plural. Tupelo tonight. West Point tomorrow night. The games today, yeah, it is 3A. So at 4 o'clock this afternoon, they're supposed to kick off the Class 3A championship game, Choctaw County versus Noxubee County. And then Tupelo, Brandon tonight. And then we'll preview the others. Okay, Jack was specifying Tupelo. Got it, Jack. Gotcha. And your comment is in. Hey, and real quick, before I come to the other comments, speaking of the schedule for high school football, let me check in with Beeve because he knows what the schedule is. Beeve, happy Thursday. How you doing?
I'm good, Matt Wyatt.
Beaver, those games are all on the radio here on 105.9 in the Metro?
Yes.
Live broadcasts. Do they have pre-games that'll, like you'll have 30 minutes of pre-game or something like that also?
Yes. So what will happen is it's all going to start today at 3:30.
Okay.
So we'll have 30-minute pre-games.
Okay.
And we're pretty much going to take you from 3:30 until the post-game of tonight's 7A
All right.
wrap-up.
Okay, so just all the way through, basically.
All the way through. We'll have pre-games, interviews, post-games, all that business.
Okay, so 2 games today, and then I guess the same thing tomorrow. 2 games tomorrow afternoon and night. And then also going to carry all 3 games on Saturday?
Yeah, all 3 games Saturday. Those will start 11:30 pregame, 11:30 all the way through Saturday night.
Yeah, that'd be a long day Saturday.
So I guess we have to apologize to the people who enjoy ESPN national programming. Don't get your fine ball tonight.
Yeah, Beeb, I'm only laughing because you simply cannot hide the sarcasm in your voice sometimes. Do you realize that?
Nah.
Like
No.
it's there, and it's really obvious it's there. So what you're saying is we don't have to apologize to anyone. Basically what you're saying.
No.
All right. Good stuff. So there you go. Later today, starting today, and throughout the weekend, you're going to have, if you're listening to this show live in the middle of the day on 105.9 The Zone in Jackson and the metro surrounding areas, you're going to have 3 days worth, days and nights worth of high school football coverage here on the radio. Looking forward to that. All right, so let's start off on the country pleasing text line. Grumpy says, Matt, Grumpy does not know when he enjoyed MSU basketball more than he did last night. So glad to see Hub with help. Keyshawn, Cam, Loco, Neil, and Coach so good on the radio, and then gave us a great big Hail State. Yeah, I'll tell you this much now. That was a whipping that State's men put on Pittsburgh last night. And from the jump, like from the opening horn, just a throttling of a top 20 team. They had them ranked 18th. You know, rankings, again, who cares? They're going to put almost 70 teams in a postseason tournament. I'm supposed to get all up in arms about the top 25. That didn't make any sense to me. But for the record, they did have them ranked highly, and they only had one loss coming into that game, just like State did. And State absolutely throttled them from the tip. State played faster and was like longer and so much more active on that first half. If it wasn't for that one left-handed kid for Pittsburgh who's really smooth and a great ball handler and an excellent shooter, if it wasn't for him, they couldn't even get shots off. I mean, it was State forcing turnover after turnover after turnover. At halftime, State had more than doubled up Pittsburgh in points off turnovers, and it was dunks and high flying and hoops, and I mean, it was just. And State was up 47-25 at halftime, and then outscored them by 11, 43-32 in the second half. Final score 90-57, a 33-point win. And you know, I'm just going to be honest with y'all. And this is kind of something that's been touched on before. I don't know that I quite realized how deep this basketball team was going to be for State this year, how many guys they were going to play, and no slouches. I mean, they just keep running guys off the bench who you're like, oh, man. Okay, for State, how many guys? But I did not realize that Nwoko, the big man, was actually that long and athletic. I just didn't realize it. And I also, watching earlier in the year, didn't really pick up the hint that he was going to be able to pull off those kinds of performances against a team like Pitt. And, you know, you look at Pitt, they don't have like a real fire-breathing five, but they're obviously a really good basketball team who can shoot it from the outside and did. That's what kind of kept them from being totally embarrassed, even though they might have still been. But Nwoko with a double-double, he had 18 and 11. 3 block shots to go with it in 18 minutes. I mean, you talk about productive. And State had 2 guys off the bench in double figures and a lot of contributions in other areas off the bench. But Murphy, 20 and 7, didn't take a 3-point shot, was perfect at the free throw line, had a block. I'll tell you, man, I'm with you, Grumpy. All right, more of your texts, more of your comments coming up right now over to the phone line, the Davini Equipment phone line. Davini Equipment in Madison and in Jackson is your Kubota dealer. They are the oldest Kubota dealer in the U.S., in fact. Means they've been doing it better, longer than anybody else right here at home at Davini. Judy on line 1. What's up, Judy?
I'm so excited for our Bulldogs. What a great game they had last night.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so proud of them. But I would like to give a shout-out to the Choctaw County Chargers as they go to Hattiesburg this afternoon and play in the state championship game for Class 3A.
Yep.
I wish them the best and play safe, play strong, and give them all you got.
Yeah, that's, am I right? That's formerly Ackerman High School.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Are you from there, Judy?
No, that's where my son-in-law is from.
Okay, gotcha.
And my daughter, son-in-law, and 2 grandsons live there, along with the other in-laws.
Yeah.
So we've been going Ackerman ever since Shannon started dating Reed.
Okay. Yep.
About 20 years.
So 4 o'clock today, Choctaw County, they are 13-1 versus Noxubee County, who is 11-2. And Denzel texted me and he said, you got Camario Taylor, the quarterback for Noxubee County, who signed with Mississippi State. And then you have Caleb Cunningham, the big-time receiver for Choctaw County, playing each other.
Yes. And unfortunately, he chose not to sign with State.
You're right. I meant to say that. Yeah,
but he's still a fantastic player.
Yeah, the receiver, he's going to Ole Miss. I think that's who he signed with yesterday.
Well, you didn't have to say that. You could have said he's going to that school up north.
School up north? Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Well, either way, you'd have known what I was talking about, wouldn't you?
Definitely. Definitely.
Good stuff, Judy.
But
well,
I hope
thank you.
They were supposed to leave at 9 this morning and head down there. So
Okay.
I thought they've had a safe trip.
There you go. Great. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the phone call. 4 p.m. right here on this radio station. Pre-game radio coverage of that start at 3:30. Make sure you do yourself a favor and tune in. On the text line, Blake wants to know, are they covering the electrical outlets for Beaver? Like, what's that from? I don't know what that's in reference to. PT for MSU texted on the Country Pleasing text line, said, looking forward to the games tomorrow. For whatever reason, the 1A game is usually a good one. He said, and my buddy coached at 𝐁𝐻𝐬𝐬 until last year, so I'll be pulling for them versus West Point tomorrow night. Oh, I mean, there have been some knockdown drag-outs in those 1A games over the years. You're exactly – some of the best football games I think I've ever watched are in some of those 1A state championship games. And you'll have teams that – well, a lot of years you've had, 1A teams that everybody's playing both ways. The starting quarterback is always a starting safety. Your starting running back is always a starting middle linebacker, those kinds of things. It is so fun to watch. All right, back over to the phone line. Got a call from Gator Matt on the Davini phone. What's up, Matt?
Matt, do you think you guys are going to keep that defensive coordinator?
Oh, well, here we are, I guess, a day after signing day. I would think so. I mean, all the tea leaves to me look like if they were going to make a change there, they'd have already done it. But, I don't know that, but that's the way it looks anyway.
Well, I think things can change on a dime.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, Matt, I know you're an MSU, you're an MSU alum, an apologist, a fan, whatever you want to call it. But can I persuade you to go ahead and hop on, because it's official. I'm selling tickets, and you can ask Beaver.
Okay.
Go ahead and hop on, and you know what you're about to hop on to. The 2025 Florida Gator National Championship run that we are about to go on. It's official. We're on. You got to hop on that train, Matt Wyatt. You got to get on there.
Okay.
With that kid at quarterback, with that running back room, the stars have aligned, Matt Wyatt.
Okay.
Get on board, Matt Wyatt. You can have a second team, for goodness sake.
You know what, Matt? Here's the thing about Florida for next year. The one thing I know for certain that I can tell you with great certainty about next year's Florida team is that I'm going to get to go to Ben Hill Griffin Stadium for the first time in my life. Finally, this wonky, just barely serviceable schedule rotation that the league has used all these years, going all the way back to my playing days, is finally out. It's finally over. We've been told, Matt, for our entire lifetimes that Mississippi State and Florida were in the same conference. When State has played Tulane more often than they've played Florida over the years. I mean, because of that goofy schedule stuff. And so, if I've looked at it right, we make a trip to Florida, get to see them down there next year, to see it for the first time. Other than that, I don't know what the schedule is. Florida does look poised. Nobody wants to really play them right now. The quarterback looks phenomenal. But, you know, you can be really good, Matt, in the SEC and lose 3 games. You just predicted a national championship. It's early. Stick around.
At Davini, we are your hometown Kubota dealer.
Today's game from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Time was their breakfasts were gloomy. They just didn't feel right, and they didn't know a delicious cereal could help their sad plight. So they tried this and tried that, but irregularity kept coming back all the same. For as often the case, lack of bulk in their diet was actually to blame. Once at the grocer's, the wife was so drooping and sagging that a neighbor said, "Get on Kellogg's All-Bran wagon. Why, All-Bran has a flavor that's scrumptious to eat. So rich and nut-like, makes breakfast a treat. And of course, Kellogg's All-Bran can help you each day to youthful regularity, the dietary way." "Well, it might do some good," said the wife with a sigh. "Guess I'll get some All-Bran and give it a try." Soon, breakfasts at her house were happy and bright, for delicious Kellogg's All-Bran set their day off right. Yes, All-Bran supplies all the bulk in your diet, you see, that you may need for youthful regularity. And no half-brand cereal possibly can provide this help as surely as Kellogg's All-Bran. A delicious, non-habit-forming aid to your diet. You're sure to like All-Bran. Just buy it and try it.
Get on the Kellogg's All-Bran wagon with the best bran in the land. The cereal that tastes grand, the cereal that's all-bran, a breakfast treat that can't be beat. Be a regular guy and climb aboard the All-Bran wagon. Eat Kellogg's All-Bran.
What is the secret of this enchanted book? What wonders are hidden within its pages? What magical spell does it cast on all who read it? What is the secret of the never-ending story?
But that's impossible!
You will enter a world where a young boy's imagination becomes a vivid reality. The world of Atreyu and Artax, the Rockbiter, and a good and kind gnome. A world that is vast and eternal, treacherous and dazzling, unforgettable and free. For anyone who's ever made a wish, believed in a fantasy, or had a dream, this is the never-ending story.
It's a new thing. It's a fun thing. It's a swing wing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing. It's a wing wing. A brand new classic grand fun thing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing. A fun thing. And now it's your favorite star thing.
It's a what?
Mazda announces some great news for truck buyers. Right now, you can beat the already outstanding value of the $67.95 Mazda SE5.
All right, back with you. I'm Matt in the Bureau, the Mississippi Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Hunter commented earlier today. He had several things on his mind to start the day over on the live stream. He's on YouTube, and Hunter said, early National Signing Day, 2 players to point out. Signed the number 3 defensive lineman in the state of Texas, and Jamarcus Moy. Am I saying that correctly? Moy or Moya? Said hopefully he pans out. The best safety, Tony Mitchell, in the cycle as well. So Hunter, a big state fan, saying that those things are according to 24/7 Sports, and you hope they do pan out. Now, he also said, pointing out the SEC went 14-2 in the basketball challenge against the ACC. State looked good. He said their passing is a strength in that victory. Yeah, I mean, they really share the basketball, don't they? I mean, they play unselfishly. I mean, that game last night for State versus Pitt was just a clinic in every way. You know, offensively, active offensive rebounds, sharing a basketball, you know, extra pass, decision making, when to go, when to pull back and set up, and all that kind of stuff, you know. And then defensively, they were just so active, and they're long, and they harass everybody. And you know, you had what were there? 7, 8 6 block shots in the game for State. I mean, they were just all over them. It was just a clinic. Also on the night, Texas beat NC State. That was in Raleigh. Vandy went to Blacksburg, Virginia, and beat Virginia Tech 80-64. Florida beat Virginia 87-69. That was in Gainesville. Alabama beat North Carolina 94-79. Whooped them. Beat them by 15. Duke beat Auburn, and that was at Duke last night. So that was the one ACC team to win last night, was Duke beating Auburn. All the rest of them, Bama, Florida State, Texas, and Vandy all won. And then, of course, you know, the previous night, back on Tuesday, you had Ole Miss went to Louisville and just throttled them. Ole Miss was up by 9 at half and outscored them by 14 in the second half, a 25-point win. Is that the right mark? 23? 23-point win. 86-63. Arkansas had a close game, but they won it over Miami back on Tuesday night. Georgia beat Notre Dame. It was not close. A 21-point win. Missouri high scoring over Cal, beat them. A 22-point win for South Carolina on the road at Boston College. A 10-point win for LSU at home over Florida State. A 13-point win at home for Texas A&M over Wake Forest. And A&M held Wake Forest to 44 points total. And Oklahoma with a 15-point win at home over Georgia Tech. Now, Clemson did nip Kentucky. Kentucky was the second or third highest ranked team from the SEC. Went on the road to Clemson, who was unranked, and Clemson beat them. So Kentucky lost. And then you had Tennessee just beating the tar out of Syracuse at home in Knoxville, 96-70, a 26-point win. So on Tuesday night, the only team that lost was Kentucky, fourth ranked in the country at Clemson. And then on Wednesday night, the only team that lost was second ranked Auburn at Duke. All the rest of those go to SEC teams. It was a heck of a deal. League may be really good. Just might be really good at basketball. That'd be fun, huh? Hey, Sven, who's over in Berlin, commented on YouTube. He said, Matt, Shane Beamer is the only head coach who has a point. He got robbed in the LSU game and would be 10-2 and safe in the playoffs if not for that blindside block on the quarterback they called on the interception return. Hey, talking about last night's basketball game at the Hump, Hale State fan said, I've never seen so many alley-oops and dunks. That's how it felt. He said, great beatdown of number 18 Pitt last night. Yeah, I mean, it really was. It really was. Hale State fans said, what here? How many? Pitt missed 44 shots and had 14 rebounds. State owned the glass. Will, he points out State beat Pitt last night in most of the key metrics. Field goal percentage, 3-point, rebounds, assists, block. State had a plus, assist to turnover. They were in the negative. Blocks, points off turnovers, points in the paint, fast break. The only thing they had fewer in the stats category than Pitt were turnovers and steals. And pretty good trade-off right there. Yeah, Chuck was listening when Gator Matt called in and predicted that the Florida Gators are going to win the national championship of football next year. And he said, mute your radio when you call in. Yeah, you got to turn it down or else we get the little feedback stuff going on. All right, coming to some more of your comments on the live stream as well. Now, Hog Jowl, my Razorback fan friend and friend of the show, with a good point. He said, I wanted to mention the loss of Bob Holt. He says, I don't know how well you knew him at all, but he was a great journalist. He was a wonderful writer, but most of all, a really nice guy. Yeah, Bob Holt, long-time beat writer for the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. And as long as I can remember, so for me, post-graduation, right after school, for 1 year, I lived out of the country, but then came back and immediately got my first job within about a year of graduating. Sort of in and around the sports media world and have been in and around it ever since. And I no longer attend SEC Media Days. I haven't for the last 2 or 3 years, but for years and years, I went to every one. And, yeah, Bob Holt was the staple. He was the staple. And it got to the point where, without really trying to, he didn't carry himself like he was trying to butt in and wedge his way into the front of the line for questioning every time. It's just that he just became known as the guy who will always ask the first question, it seemed like, on the teleconferences on Wednesdays during football season and at SEC Media Days. And he would always introduce himself. You could recognize his voice. Bob Holt. He'd say, hey, Coach, Bob Holt, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. He generally would call the coaches by their first name. Like Coach Saban. Hey, Nick. How you doing? Bob Holt, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. I got a question for you. And he had a great personality, very beloved because he's a very humble guy. And this past week when Arkansas was playing at Missouri, who ironically Bob Holt graduated from Missouri, but made a living covering Arkansas for the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Last game of the year, Arkansas's final game, they were at Missouri, played in the snow, I think, last Friday? And he was there in the press box, covered the game. He went down, just as media does, to go down to the post-game interviews and press conferences, ask the questions and get the quotes he needs for stories that he's writing. And on his way back to the press box, they would go back up, and then he would sit down and write and post his story to his publication before going to his hotel. On his way back up to the press box after post-game interviews, he collapsed. And he wound up in the hospital there in Columbia and on a ventilator and never came out. He passed away yesterday. And so anyone involved with the Southeastern Conference, both coaches and athletes, but certainly fellow media people and writers and the commissioners put out a statement. Everybody's going, oh, man, you know, because everybody knew who he was and everybody thought positively of him. And, you know, I think probably to his credit, too, he's like really good at what he did. But for him, it was just a job. He took everything light around that, and he got to know people. And myself, I didn't spend a lot of time with him. I wasn't in the print world and that sort of thing. And I think he came along after I was playing, you know, in terms of covering Arkansas. I'm not sure exactly when he started. But anyway, yeah, you know, in a league like the Southeastern Conference, generation to generation, you have players or coaches and other personalities that are sort of synonymous and known just by everybody in the league across the entire footprint. From a media perspective, that was Bob Holt from the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. So you kind of you're losing a giant in the sports writing world. Really and truly, I mean this, not only in the Southeastern Conference now, but in the history of the Southeastern Conference. He's one of those sports writing giants in the history of the Southeastern Conference. He always will be. NWR Mike texts the show. He said Beamer and South Carolina got screwed by the refs in that LSU game. They should have only 2 losses. And he says the SEC should schedule less SEC games. Really? Stephen texted me and he said Choctaw County is normally a recruiting ground for Mississippi State. I can't believe we couldn't land Cunningham. I'd normally pull for Choctaw County, but I may have to pull for Knoxville. And he reminded me that Ware and Ackerman combined, which makes for great football players. And they were. He said Ware was awesome for a long time. They were. Back when Junior Graham and others were the head coach there, Ware was a staple in the 1A state championship picture. It seemed like every year. And now they and all the Ackerman kids are all going to one school. Right back in the state championship picture today against a really good Knoxville County team and a great quarterback on that other side. All right. Rolling along. Y'all stick around.
A lot of people are looking forward to seeing you this Christmas.
Thursday, it's Cosby starting off a night of family fun and leaving some family ties to keep the laughs coming.
Oh, no. What are we going to do? Everything's under control.
Then on Cheers, will Norm fink on a friend to get a promotion?
Yeah, yes, yes.
And the fun continues with Night Court, Thursday.
For over half a century, dairymen have tried to capture in cans the flavor of pure, fresh milk. And now Foremost has discovered the secret with an evaporated milk that's closest by far to fresh milk itself.
Kind of hard to believe, isn't it? An evaporated milk that doesn't have that old-fashioned evaporated milk taste. But it's true, and you can prove it. You know how most evaporated milks taste in coffee. The flavor goes flat. But try Foremost. You'll see it's white, the way milk ought to look, not drab tan like other brands. And when you taste it, well, if you're anything like me, you'll never even know it isn't pure, fresh cream. You try it and see. That's Foremost, the closest thing in cans to pure, fresh milk. Remember, your family gets the most from Foremost.
Coca-Cola, come on, girl. Gotta share a Coke with you. Let the feeling show through. You wanna live a little bit more. That's what the taste of Coke is for. Coke adds life. Everybody wants a little life. Coca-Cola, Coke adds life. Everybody wants.
Come on, Harry, come on. We're getting our picture taken.
Special moments. Times of your life you'll want to remember. In pictures.
Smile, Howard. Smile.
To help make make those pictures look as good as they can, make sure Kodak paper is behind them. If you don't see these words, it isn't Kodak paper. Just look for this sign when you get your pictures. Kodak paper, for a good look at the times of your life.
Gee, wasn't that fun?
Come and get it! Come and get it!
Stop the confusion. Stop the confusion. Everybody wants to get into the act with Kellogg's Variety Pack. Buster wants the cornflakes, Pop wants a pep. Mama loves the raisin bran, Mama is hip. Sister loves Rice Krispies, and there's Uncle Jack. He loves Kellogg's shredded wheat. Kellogg's makes it fun to eat. Breakfast with Variety Pack. Okay, folks, there's your favorite individual box of cereal, fresh from Kellogg's Variety Pack, untouched by human hands, except your own. That don't mean you gotta eat with 'em. Each individual box comes to your FOD, fresh on delivery from Battle Creek, right to your own dish. Yeah, everybody wants to get into the act with Kellogg's Variety Pack. Yes, sir, Kellogg's Variety Pack.
Here comes the one, the delicious one. Heinz is the big rich one. There's only one ketchup with this flavor pouring on. So thick, so rich, so second to none.
Only one ketchup stands for this kind of thickness with this kind of taste. Heinz.
Heinz is the big rich one.
I love the rich, whole wheat goodness of Kellogg's Mini Wheats. But the delicious frosted side makes the rich kid in me open wide.
The nutritious shredded wheat helps keep me on my toes. But the little ballerina in me thinks the taste steals the show.
Kellogg's Mini Wheats.
I'm starving. Don't worry, he's got a menu full on the Zone 105.9 and worldwide at the Zone 105.9.com.
Well, that's one way to look at it. Over here on X, my man Blind Squirrel says if the SEC scheduled less games, we'd have 7 teams in the playoff. You might do what? Play less conference games and just play out of conference and win them all? Yeah, maybe so. He was also bragging on his basketball coach there at Georgia, Mike White. He said he's already making a case for SEC Coach of the Year. Well, I mean, I think, yeah, obviously it's early, but I don't know much. I did not catch wind of what Georgia's expectations were or weren't really with basketball coming into this year. I do think a lot of Mike White, and he did a good job last year. Grumpy texted us on the Country Pleasing text line, which, by the way, if you're listening, this is live here on this Thursday, and you can text me at the following number. 601 number, 885-3776. Got it? 885-3776. And another good way to remember the text number is just 885-ESPN. If you text that, I'll get it. Grumpy said that his neighbor who attended the basketball game at the Hump last night said that the crowd was great. You know, it looked great on your screen there, from what you could see. Still, it was a Wednesday night in early December. But look, you've seen it. Here's what's happening. You've seen it build. Students are totally behind it because it's a really fun product to win. I think it also diametrically helps basketball at State when football stinks, because and then basketball, they're more than competitive. Fans are just itching to watch a team play that they can pull for that's their school, that you feel like every time they roll the ball out there might have a chance to win as opposed to not having a chance. So, that helps. Students are behind them. It's a really good basketball team. Their style of play is fun to watch. And when you have a guy like Hubbard and guys like Cam Matthews, who've been around forever, and we feel like we know him. You know, he's a kid from Mississippi. He's been there for 4 or 5 years now. You feel like you know him. That's a little bit different. Keyshawn Murphy, some of those players, it is a fun product, and they're going to have great crowds. You get into January and you're playing SEC games like on a Saturday, you're going to have some great crowds in there, and it's about time. You know, and Ole Miss too. I mean, I'm not ignoring them at all. They've got a really good team. I mean, they're a top 25 caliber team too. They're winning. Won big 2 nights ago. Phenomenal arena. If you hadn't seen the new pavilion at Ole Miss, you ought to venture in there and go see a game or something, because it is a fantastic place. So we may just have a little fun now with basketball this go around. Jason in Flagstaff says, he said, wait a minute, what happened with all the earlier in the year, the fire Billy Napier? Remember that? You remember that? Wait a minute, Jason, did Gator Matt actually lobby to fire Billy Napier? I need to know. Now, Matt, if you're listening, and for those who just tuned in, Gator Matt called us earlier in the show. He's a good caller. And he said that the Florida Gators are going to win the 2025 national championship. And let's be honest, it's a little early. But I need to know, Matt, Gator Matt, were you one who wanted to fire Billy Napier? All right. Denzel says, Matt, I saw your tweet to Godfather Prince. Philip, the Prince of Neshoba County. He says, I've got $5 on it that you could hit 75% on free throws with no practice. I'll be there to be sure, Prince, and the Madden Mafia don't pull any funny business. Well, you know what, Denzel? Okay, first of all, I really do think I could. It means I've got to hit between 7 and 8 out of every 10 shots that I take. But the thing is, when I first tweeted to him and told him I could hit 75% of my free throws without any practice, I thought it was like 10 shots. I just had to hit 7.5. He said it's out of 100. Now, that's putting up a lot of shots. My arms might get tired because I'm so out of shape, but I'm willing to stand by that. I could get close to 75%, I think, without any practice. I mean, it's just a free throw. There's nothing hard about it. I mean, like my father-in-law says, you should never miss it. It is a free throw. If it were only that easy. But I'm willing to stand by that, especially for a good cause. Especially for a good cause. And again, for those that don't know, so look him up. He's Godfather Prince, my man, Philip Prince from the Ark Church, the basketball church there in Philadelphia. And the idea was we do a radio show there coming up. Pick a day, we go do a show. And while we're there, we carry on a contest because I told him, man, I can make some free throws. I don't need a lot of practice. And so the deal would be if I we're trying to raise $1,000 for the church or something like that. I'm up for it. He said he was going to buy food. I'm like, what? Who cares? Win or lose, we all win. There's free food, and Prince pays for it. Nick said, make sure Prince doesn't use one of those warped balls from the fair. He's sneaky. Yeah, he is. We could do a 3-point shooting contest, have a game of horse. I'm up for all of that. Hey, Rick says, is your coffee staying hot today? Boy, is it, Rick. Thank you ever so much. I hold in my hands right here. It's even got the original handle on it. because when they made these Stanley thermoses back in the day in Nashville, Tennessee, well, I think it was actually Murfreesboro, but they said Nashville. They were American made, and they are sturdy. And this one is still in great shape. Keeping my coffee hot. Drinking coffee out of it right now. Thank you, Rick. I really appreciate it. This is a real deal thermos. You can. I picked it up and I immediately could tell it's better made and more sturdy than the current Stanley thermoses that are made in China. I mean, you can pick it up, feel it, and tell. So thank you. Jason in Flagstaff said he has no idea if Gator Matt said fire Billy Napier or not. He said, but everybody else did. I know. Hey, you want a good laugh, Jason? You want a good laugh? Listen to this. This is on ESPN.com today. Here is the opening one-sentence lead-in to a story today on ESPN.com. Here it is. The University of Texas investigation into the bottle throwing incident that disrupted the Texas and Georgia game back in October and drew a harsh rebuke and fine from the SEC has resulted in no one being caught or punished. I'm telling you, when I read that, I just thought, like, how can you read that and not laugh? It sounds so serious, and then the sentence results in no one has been caught or punished to this point. It happened 3 months ago. The University of Texas investigation of the bottle throwing incident that disrupted the Texas-Georgia game has resulted in no one being caught or punished. In a report to the conference sent last month, Texas officials said a video review did not identify any of the culprits. Do y'all remember that whole thing? Okay, they threw the bottles on the field, disrupt the Georgia game. They're mad at the officiating, all this kind of stuff. They got a $250,000 fine, $250,000 fine from the SEC. And then Texas puts out this thing, sent out these emails. We read it here on the show. Every season ticket holder, every student, everybody got this thing from them. It says, we're going to look at the video. We're going to identify which individuals threw things onto the field. We will track you down. And your tickets will be revoked, and you will not be able to renew them at any point in time in 2024. You're done coming to our games. Well, as it turns out, they didn't have quite enough cameras in there, apparently, because they caught no one. The video review did not, quote, identify any of the culprits. I'll tell you this, though. I'll give it to the Texas fan base. They're tight. Nobody squealed on anybody. And there's no tattletales in the Texas fan base. No Texas tattletales around here. Video review. How's it going? Did y'all catch? Nope. You punish it? Anybody yet? Nope. Not a one. All right. Hour 1 in the books. Hour 2 coming up right after this. Stick around.
I was born and raised in Greenville. I've always called Greenville home. This is where I, was raised, went to high school, graduated high school, worked all my life here leading up to going to college. So even when I moved from Greenville, I always told people, they asked me where you're from, I always said I'm from Greenville. I have mother, father, brother, niece, aunt, all live here in Greenville. So this is home. This is where I, live, and I've just always called it home. Small town, I feel like I could walk in any place tomorrow and know 2 to 3 people in there. It's small town. Someone's on the side of the road broken down. Hey, you need a boost, flat tire, you need help changing it. That's just kind of, what I love about this area. The blues and the food and everything that comes along with the Mississippi Delta that I love. I tell people all the time, my business cards have my cell phone number on them for a reason. Insurance doesn't happen from 8 to 5. When you need me, it's going to be after 5. It hardly ever happens where you have a wreck, get pulled over, need an insurance card, wind blows, shingles off your roof. All these things happen, and it's typically after 5. And so the ability for someone to call me, get in contact with me, text me, ask me a question, and that's what it's about to me, is helping the people that we serve, is taking care of people, and them knowing that they can count on me whenever they need me. I am Brian Street with Farm Bureau Insurance in Washington County, and we are your home team.
Y'all have heard me talk about Murray West and MurrayWest.com. They made the hat that I'm wearing. Got the Natchez Trace logo on it. I've told you a little bit about what they are. Contract embroidery company here in Mississippi. Started back in 1996, family owned. They do a phenomenal job, and I got to go visit their place up in New Albany. Let me show you a little bit about it. When I say they do quality stuff, they really do. And so custom apparel, team stuff, really and truly, just about every high school in the state is sending their embroidered, team gear, jackets, shirts, hats, stuff. Baseball teams, football teams, they're sending it to the folks at Murray West in New Albany. You go to their website, MurrayWest.com, you go to the bottom, you can kind of see some of the Prairie Wildlife, Ole Miss Athletics, Gentile, others that they work with. Can't recommend them enough. If you need your logo printed, embroidered, sewn on to anything, custom apparel and other stuff, make sure you go there. Murray West, you can find them online. MurrayWest.com. That's MURRY West.com.
Experiencing problems with their memory or having trouble with routine tasks. Talking about Alzheimer's can be really tough. But if you notice something, have a conversation with your loved one. Encourage them to see a doctor or offer to go with them. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. The Alzheimer's Association provides care, support, and research to help you take control of the situation with your family and manage the disease together. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's.
Today's game from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Time was, their breakfasts were gloomy. They just didn't feel right, and they didn't know a delicious cereal could help their sad plight. So they tried this and tried that, but irregularity kept coming back all the same. For as often the case, lack of bulk in their diet was actually to blame. Once at the grocer's, the wife was so drooping and sagging that a neighbor said, "Get on Kellogg's all-bran wagon." Why, all bran has a flavor that's scrumptious to eat. So rich and nut-like, makes breakfast a treat. And of course, Kellogg's All Bran can help you each day to youthful regularity, the dietary way. Well, it might do some good, said the wife with a sigh. Guess I'll get some All Bran.
Back with you, I'm Matt, in the Bureau, the Mississippi Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Farm Bureau Insurance in Mississippi. Go with the home team. They are your home team at Farm Bureau all across the great state of Mississippi, in all 82 counties. Your hometown heroes, that's your local Farm Bureau insurance agents. Hey, look here. Hour 2 is off and running. You can be a part of it. I hope you will be. Feel free to comment on the live stream. Hey to you. You can't see me right now. I'm waving, though. Right now, you just got a graphic on your screen with the numbers scrolling at the bottom. This is live. And you can type in a comment and be a part of the show if you're on YouTube or X or Facebook, however you do it. Just comment, post it. It pops up in the column right there, and then I can pop it up on the screen and we can take a look at it. For example, Will and some others over here were discussing, schedule rotation and all that. He said, I think they know that if they went to 4 divisions and set up schedules, that would throw a wrench in their assimilation of the ACC teams that they want. And, they didn't do that. Right. And that's probably one of the reasons. And they went with what they went, which is no divisions. As opposed to any number of divisions are adding. They just got rid of divisions altogether. Chuck commenting on the story that came out of Austin, Texas, that said the University of Texas did an investigation into the bottle throwing incident that disrupted their game against Georgia, and the investigation has resulted in no one being caught or punished. Here is the quote from Del Conte, the athletics director at Texas. Despite our best effort, we've not been able to identify the individuals at issue. We will take action if new identifying information comes to light. How hard do you think they're looking at this point? Chuck said probably found out it was a big donor and they, quote unquote, lost the video. Some tycoon's grandkid, over there misbehaved. We can't punish Johnny. We do that to him. I mean, there goes the new practice facility. I mean, we can't do that. Good point. Troll Tide on the country pleasing text line. And listen, if you're tuning in, that's another good way to be a part of the show. Just shoot me a text. Now, don't text and drive, okay? Our friend, former Ole Miss Rebel in Kansas City, Chief Dexter McCluster, would not be happy with us if we text and drive. So we're not going to do that, but if you're not driving, feel free to just fire away, text away. The number to text is 885-ESPN, 885-ESPN, or 885-3776. Yeah, Troll Tide said Texas got Deputy Dog in hot pursuit. Picking up your sarcasm. Rhino just texted the show and simply said, hey. Well, back at you, Rhino. Hey to you. Okay, Hunter on YouTube says, Matt, what's your opinion on the Alabama 7A championship game being played first on a Wednesday night and not last? All right. Let's check in with Beaver on something because I got a theory. Beaver is one to always sort of hold back, not really come out with what he thinks. Y'all picking up my sarcasm? And he let us know how he felt about in Mississippi having the 7A game on Thursday night, not Saturday night. Hey, Beep.
Hey, Matt Wyatt.
You think it's Mississippi just copying Alabama?
What are we copying Alabama about?
Okay, so the state of Alabama, first of all, I'll say it this way. Years ago, the state of Alabama played its championship football games in one venue in a centralized location, Beaver. They used to all converge on Legion Field in Birmingham And they used to play there, all their championship games there across the weekend. And then Alabama started rotating the games and sending some of the games to Tuscaloosa and some of the games to Auburn. Shortly thereafter, Mississippi moved its games out of Jackson and started sending them to the college campuses. Okay. Then Hunter tells me, and I thought I saw this, and I wondered, I didn't click on it, Hunter, but it scrolled across my Facebook feed last night, that it looked like they were playing the 7A, Class 7A championship game, football game, Beaver, like in Tuscaloosa or Auburn or somewhere, on a Wednesday night. The first, opening night of their championship weekend. They did it on a Wednesday. And here we are complaining about having our 7A championship game on a Thursday. I'm just wondering if what we're doing is we're just kind of following suit with the state next door. You see you pick up what I'm putting down here?
Yeah. No, I will refuse to believe that we copied Alabama in anything. We don't need you, Alabama. We can obviously make our own stupid decisions. And this one was ours.
Okay. So you're still not in support?
No.
Thursday night.
The main event comes last.
The main event. Okay, yeah. So last night it was Thompson versus Central, but Central who for Alabama? Central who? Central Phoenix City? Central Tuscaloosa? Which Central is it? I hate that. I'm not from Alabama. I'm trying to look up the score. Don't put Central. Central what? There are several Central high schools. There's Central Florence. But anyway, it doesn't matter because whoever Central is lost to Thompson, who's the big school over in Alabama. They played it on a Wednesday night. Hey, but I will say, Beav, for the record, one thing is different. Like what Alabama's been doing, they'll send half or some of their classifications and play their games in Tuscaloosa, but then the same weekend they'll send some of their others to Auburn. They split them up. I'm not sure what that's all about. I think the Rock in Hattiesburg is actually an excellent place to host the state championship games. And I thought they were excellent when they were in Jackson at Veterans Memorial. It's obviously neutral, sort of centralized location. Equidistance driving for a lot of schools if you're farther away. But, Hattiesburg, great town. It is. Reasonable for coast teams. It's not like a coast team, Picayune having to go to Oxford. And even Tupelo. Here we are in North. It's 3.5 to 4 driving to get to Hattiesburg. It's not bad at all. And the size of the stadium, I think the Rock seats, 40,000 people? When's the last time they had? What's the most attended game in Hattiesburg? It would have to be one against State somewhere back in the 80s, wouldn't you think? I'm looking it up right now. M.M. Roberts Stadium. Seating capacity is 36,000. Okay. So, see, that's the thing. And that's 36,000 seat stadium is nothing to shake a stick at. It's a good sized place. But the thing is, it's perfect. It's not 60,000. What I'm saying is Davis Wade at Starkville, Ole Miss, Vaught Hemingway at Ole Miss, it is not quite, but almost double that capacity. So when those games have been there, you can put a big traveling high school fan base in there and it still just feels odd because the stadium just swallows it up. And I'm trying to think what year it was. Maybe December of 2018, I think is when it was, when Oak Grove and John Rice Plumlee was their quarterback, played against Horn Lake, and Horn Lake had N'Kobe Dean, and Radar Jones was their quarterback, and Horn Lake actually wound up winning it. But, I mean, it was a huge crowd. And I would say, Oak Grove fans, because they're there from Hattiesburg, on one side of M.M. Roberts probably had, I bet they had 10, 12,000 people over there. Okay? And then on the other side, Horn Lake traveled a big crowd down there too. It's a big school, from DeSoto County. And they didn't have as many as Oak Grove, but they had a huge crowd. And I just looked at it. No, it wasn't full, but in a 36,000-seat stadium, it just fit. You're in a college campus, college stadium, big, nice, well-lit, everything you would need. And it still felt like you had actually a pretty good-sized crowd for the game. I just thought it was a good place for it. Well, let's see, attendance record attendance. Here we go. It wasn't in the 80s. It says 2008 to now, M.M. Roberts Stadium, Hattiesburg, seats 36,000. But it says the record attendance was the season opening game against Dak Prescott and Mississippi State in 2015, when there was an attendance of 36,641. So a little over 36,000 people in attendance for that one. And that's the record attendance for one of their games there at that stadium. Anyway, I think it's a good place for it. Okay, and in terms of schedule, so here we go. For those that don't know, starting this afternoon, we're going to have the first one of the weekend is the 3A championship game today, 4 o'clock kick. Hattiesburg, M.M. Roberts. Choctaw County, 13-1 versus Noxubee County, 11-2. And by the way, again, if you're listening to my voice live in the middle of the day here on 105.9, the station is going to carry those games live for you with a 30-minute pregame before each. Then tonight, the biggie, the biggest classification, 7A kickoff at 7:30 between 13-0 Tupelo and a 12-1 Brandon. Tomorrow, 2 games tomorrow, and they'll be at the same times. 4 p.m. is the 1A game between Baldwin and Simmons. Simmons 13-0, Baldwin 13-1. Who'd Baldwin lose to this year? Who beat them? The Baldwin Bearcats. And they have a rich tradition. They've had a bunch of great athletes. They're not far from here. I live in Tupelo, and Baldwin's just north of that. It's almost like Baldwin's like a place that's right on, maybe even in some places, straddling the Lee County and Prentiss County line. Baldwin and Boonville have a big rivalry. Boonville's in Prentiss County. When they play each other in football, they call that the Skunk Bowl, because one time they were playing a game and the momentum was going one way, and a skunk walked out on the field. They had to shut the game down, and somebody eventually caught it, sacrificed themselves and caught the skunk, and got rid of it. And after the skunk incident, the game turned and the momentum totally went another way. And so it became known as the Skunk Bowl. Anyway, tomorrow, 4 o'clock, Baldwin versus Simmons for the 1A. And then tomorrow night, 5A championship. Look who's there again, West Point. Early in the year, they had some non-division losses. They started slowly. New head coach, first-year head coach in Brett Morgan, taking over for Coach Chambliss. And then they picked it up. They are 10-3, and West Point is back in the Class 5A state championship game. They're playing 𝐁𝐻𝐫, who is 12-1 from down the coast. Tomorrow night, 7:30. And then 3 games on Saturday. It'll start at noon, which means radio coverage pregame starts at 11:30. But the kickoff at noon on Saturday, 2A game between Charleston, who's 12-2, and Heidelberg at 13-1. Charleston over in the Delta, that's where Morgan Freeman is from. Over in the Delta, or just over in the Delta. And Charleston, I remember back, he is retiring. I don't know if he just retired, if this is his last year, but Perry Lyles was the head coach at Charleston, and this would have been maybe 10 years ago, maybe a little more. And, their colors are black and gold, like yellow gold, bright yellow. But Perry used to be the head coach at Aberdeen way back in the day. And he coached one of my teammates at Mississippi State when he was in high school, Reggie Kelly. Well, at the time, Reggie Kelly was about a 10-year veteran of the NFL playing for the Cincinnati Bengals. And Reggie was drafted into the NFL by the Falcons, but then played for Atlanta and for the Bengals. He was playing for the Bengals at the time. Had been in the league for like 10 years. And Coach and Perry was his high school coach. And so he requested and got the stencil pattern that the Bengals used to paint their helmets from Reggie. And they used it to paint the Charleston helmets. And so Charleston went with and had the Bengals tiger stripe helmets, but instead of orange and black, they were yellow and black. I don't know if they still wear them that way or not, to be honest with you. But it was cool back then because I'd never seen that on a high school helmet anyway. Then on Saturday at 3:30, you get the 4A championship game between Louisville 13-1 and 12-2 Poplarville. And if I'm not mistaken, that's a rematch of a championship game from recently. 6A game Saturday night. That'll wrap up the weekend Saturday night at 7 o'clock when in the 6A game you get Grenada, who is 13-1, taking on Hattiesburg, who is undefeated and 13-0 and be playing effectively a home game. Be a heck of a challenge for Grenada. It's Grenada's second straight year to get to the state championship game under new head coach Michael Fair, who was a teammate of mine at Mississippi State back in the day, or I was a teammate of his, one or the other. All right, over to the phone line, the Deviney Equipment phone line. Deviney Equipment, Madison and in Jackson, your Kubota dealer. Got a call from Daniel on line 1. What's up, Daniel?
Hey, Matt White. How you doing?
Great.
So, it's interesting you say this about the stadium size at Southern. And I was fortunate enough in, 17 years ago, this from Middle Tennessee, but we played in the 5A state championship game, which was at the time the largest classification. And our game was over at MTSU, Middle Tennessee State University. And that's about a 31,000 seat stadium. And it's interesting because you say, it feels right. There's probably 17,000, 18,000 fans at that game. And it still felt a little bit like, like in the quarterfinal game, we played our crosstown rival at their home field, and they said there was 11,000 people at that game, and that's a classic high school with the track, and I mean it was lined, 7 rows deep all the way around the track, and it felt more packed with that environment with 10,000, 11,000 fans. So people sort of talking about why is it it's probably a hard thing for these high school people to say, where do we need to have the game? Because you want that environment, but you also don't want it to feel like you're playing in a basketball arena that's a football stadium in a basketball arena. Talking about the anyways. One thing that's interesting, and I want to know your thoughts about this, and it's a sad trend. I read this article on ESPN about this defensive tackle out of New Orleans who has foregone his junior and senior year, essentially. He's the guy that's, a superstar recruit, and he's essentially just opted out of playing for St. Augustine and is just waiting on a major NIL deal. And I don't know your thoughts on this, because this time of year you hear about, these state championship games, and I had the blessing to be able to participate that my senior year. But some of these kids, looking ahead with all the recruiting pressure and all that stuff, I didn't play college football like you did and a lot of other people, but I think a lot of guys that you probably would agree with this, that they go through college and maybe even play a few seasons in the NFL. And I think that everyone would agree that final senior season, a lot of these guys, they're in a moment right now that is just bottled up. You want to keep it forever.
Oh, man.
It is amazing.
100%. And, I'm not familiar with the specifics of that kid in New Orleans. Are you saying, so he opted out of this year and he still has another year after this year left in high school?
I don't know all the details.
Okay.
I think he wanted to graduate early at St. Augustine, and they wouldn't let him.
Okay.
And so then he tried to transfer to a different school in the middle, toward the beginning, during the season, and now he has to sit out the whole season.
Mm-hmm.
So he's basically missing, and then he's going to go to play in college next fall, I guess, and he's probably the top 5 defensive lineman. He's a 6'6". I mean, just generational talent, but these guys are missing out on some of these. Everyone's talking about Ryan Williams, how amazing he is at Alabama. Well, he played 2 seasons in high school, and he's gone. So I don't know. It's kind of a shame. I think I'm not trying to be nostalgic or anything like that.
No, and I don't think you are. But you know what? I'm in lockstep with you, and I guess sort of my take on it is most of the people who are going to forego their high school experience for trying to jump ahead too soon, or they just want money.
Right.
Daniel, I'm just telling you, most of them, they are going to hit 35, 40 years old someday, and they're going to look back and really genuinely regret it. They're going to regret it. That's going to happen.
And a lot of those guys have been the best in every sport they've played since they were 10 years old.
Sure.
And unlike me, it's like, man, I'm a senior. I finally get to play. It's just a very different perspective.
Well, but that's the other side of it for me too, Daniel, is I say, okay, if we've got somebody who they don't really value the experience, all this is something that's going to propel them to go make some more money. You want to step out of the way? Fine. Go ahead.
Let the next guy enjoy it.
Yes. Let the next guy who really would appreciate the experience, bring him on up here and let's play with him. I'm 100% in agreement there. Good call, Daniel. Call me anytime.
Hey, thanks, now, wife. All right, bye.
Bye. Because it is, it's almost like the kind of experience worthy of people who can appreciate the experience they're getting to have of being on a high school football team and playing there. All right, stick around.
A lot of people are looking for
Today's game from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Time was, their breakfasts were gloomy. They just didn't feel right, and they didn't know a delicious cereal could help their sad plight. So they tried this and tried that, but irregularity kept coming back all the same. For as often the case, lack of bulk in their diet was actually to blame. Once at the grocer's, the wife was so drooping and sagging that a neighbor said, "Get on Kellogg's All-Bran wagon. Why, All-Bran has a flavor that's scrumptious to eat. So rich and nut-like, makes breakfast a treat. And of course, Kellogg's All-Bran can help you each day to youthful regularity, the dietary way." "Well, it might do some good," said the wife with a sigh. "Guess I'll get some All-Bran and give it a try." Soon, breakfasts at her house were happy and bright, for delicious Kellogg's All-Bran set their day off right. Yes, All-Bran supplies all the bulk in your diet, you see, that you may need for youthful regularity. And no half-brand cereal possibly can provide this help as surely as Kellogg's All-Bran. A delicious, non-habit-forming aid to your diet. You're sure to like All-Bran. Just buy it and try it.
Get on the Kellogg's All-Bran wagon with the best bran in the land. The cereal that tastes grand, the cereal that's All-Bran, a breakfast treat that can't be beat. Be a regular guy and climb aboard the All-Bran wagon. Eat Kellogg's All-Bran.
What is the secret of this enchanted book? What wonders are hidden within its pages? What magical spell does it cast on all who read it? What is the secret of the never-ending story?
But that's impossible!
enter a world where a young boy's imagination becomes a vivid reality. The world of Atreyu and Artax, the Rockbiter, and a good and kind gnome. A world that is vast and eternal, treacherous and dazzling, unforgettable and free. For anyone who's ever made a wish, believed in a fantasy, or had a dream, this is the never-ending story.
It's a new thing. It's a fun thing. It's a swing wing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing. It's a wing wing. A brand new transgram fun thing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing. A fun thing. And now it's your favorite store thing.
It's a what?
Mazda announces some great news for truck buyers. Right now, you can beat the already outstanding value of the $67.95 Mazda SE5.
And coming to you worldwide at thezone1059.com.
All right, back with you. I'm Matt in the Bureau, the Mississippi Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Earthquake. Very interesting. By the way, staying connected to you because of C-Spire, the #1 network in Mississippi. C-Spire. Customer inspired. Check them out. cspire.com. Deals coming up. Holidays, Christmas stuff. There are some devices that I need to get my hands on over at C-Spire. You know what I mean? Get them in the hands of Santa Claus. Sven says, breaking news, there was just a massive earthquake in California with a 6.6 magnitude. Don't know the details. Chuck said there's a tsunami warning because of it. Beaver, did you see anything about this? I mean, you're kind of stuck in your concrete cinder block room in there with no windows. And there's not a TV in there, is it, Beaver?
Nope. Uncle Bill took that away a few years back, even though no one told him or asked him to. True story.
Why would he do that?
Not even the boss told him to do it or asked him to
Why
or
would he
said
take it
anything
out?
about it.
What did he do with it?
You know Bill does what he wants. He threw it away.
Bill. Hey, you know what Bill did to me last night? Bill has a tendency, to butt dial me. Like he accidentally calls me all the time. And I'll answer it, and then I don't hear anything. I just hear like rumbling and scuffling and random noises. Okay. And so last night, phone rings and obligatory answer. The whole time I'm thinking, he's done it again. He butt dialed me. You know what it was? My friend Breck Riley, who does some radio stuff, and he does radio for Holmes Community College. He's a good guy. Had asked me earlier in the week, we texted back and forth because he needed to do an interview with somebody from Tupelo to preview this Tupelo Brandon game on his broadcast. And I was like, sure, I'll do it. But then we never did come together on a day, and I just totally forgot about it and all this. So Bill calls me last night. I say, hello, Beaver. Bill goes, hey, man. I said, hey. He goes, I'm down here in Hattiesburg. And Breck Riley standing right here said you never got back to him. And so there's this awkward moment where I realized, Beaver, I forgot to call Breck back. Bill has called me on speakerphone, standing right next to this guy, and has put me squarely on the spot. Right in front. And I said, Bill, hey, tell him I'm sorry. I tell him I totally forgot. I don't have an excuse. I just forgot it. And Breck's like, man, it's no big deal. Bill starts rubbing it in. Out loud on speakerphone, Bill goes, he said you're supposed to call him. You never called him back. You just left him hanging. I mean, I thought, here's the deal, Beav. I'm thinking the whole time, I deserve this. Okay, this embarrassment that I'm going through right now, I deserve it. But why is Bill doing this? But anyway, love him to death. He's from California. Bill is from California, and this is his home territory. Okay, here it is. Here's the story. I just found it. Thank you, Sven. A large earthquake struck off the coast of Humboldt County on Thursday morning today, prompting a tsunami warning for part of the north coast. All right, so that earthquake was out in the ocean. Got me? It was. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, the quake struck around 10:44 a.m. west of Petrolia, California, in the Pacific Ocean. A tsunami warning has been issued for 45 miles southwest of Eureka. The earthquake was first preliminarily registered as having a magnitude of 6.6, which, Sven, that's what you saw. But get this. U.S. Geological Survey has updated it as a 7.0. A significant apparent aftershock that registered as a 5.8 quake hit minutes later near Cobb, California, in Lake County. Several other aftershocks were also recorded that all registered between 2.5 and 4.2. Residents up and down the northern California coast, as well as into the Central Valley, could reported feeling the shake. Beav, have you ever felt an earthquake? Neither have I. I've never been, as far as I know, never been around one. Hard to imagine it. Like, I think it's one of those where if you've been in on an earthquake, you know it. If you haven't, you can't possibly know what it's like. That's kind of what I feel like we're looking at right there. But thanks for letting me know. Northern Cal all the way up to Oregon. Tsunami warning. Wow. 7.0 earthquake out in the ocean. What's happening? Time to go back and read Revelation again. I'm being dead serious, actually. Denzel texts the show and says, Matt, this is state championship week and my favorite week of the year. And for the record, when it comes to state championship coverage, it says MAIS is way better than MHSAA. MAIS doesn't require you to pay to watch the title games like the MHSAA. You can view them for free. You know, there's a, I guess there's a little research to be done on that. I would love to understand it. It's not my responsibility, so, it's not like I have any say-so one way or the other. I just remember what it was like, right, Denzel, where back several years ago, well, let's just go back. Like, time I started paying attention, early 2000s, all the way up to around, 2014, 15, somewhere in there. Every year, you could watch every high school MHSAA title game on public television free, right? And everybody was getting those stations. And then that changed, and it went over to this NFHS thing where you have to pay and kind of have a subscription to be able to watch it. And they changed it for the championships because you take a school like Tupelo that has their own in-house live stream on their own website of all their games, so you can watch them online if you can't be there. And the school is not allowed to do that for that game tonight, for example. They can't do their normal live stream because there's a locked-in deal about, some partnership between the association and this NFHS network, so that you need to have a subscription, you got to pay to watch them. Now, in my experience, those broadcasts, those NFHS broadcasts have gotten better and better and better and do a good job, but you do have to pay for it. All right, over to the phone, the Divinity Equipment phone line. More Bully on line 1. What's up, More Bully?
It's me. It's me. It's the MWRE. What's happening?
Not much. Hey, do you have your radio on?
I'm going to change the subject on. Yeah. No.
Oh. Well,
I have the volume turned down.
Okay. All right. Go ahead. I'm sorry. What's up?
You getting reverb?
Yeah, a little bit.
Me too. And I have the several times I've called lately.
I don't know what that is.
So, Beaver, we need to get on that.
Hey, don't tell Bill about it. He'll take out half the equipment.
Well, that's right. That's right. Don't do that. So I'm going to change the subject and talk a little basketball.
All right.
First of all, the women's game last night was eerily familiar, except for the ending to the Notre Dame championship game.
Mm-hmm.
Just back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And the girls didn't lose because they played bad. It's just the better team won last night. On that night. Now, about the men, what we saw last night was what I was expecting out of this team during the offseason, with all the hype going on. And, I mean, they took Pittsburgh to school.
Oh, man.
And they were ranked 18th, I think.
Yeah.
So we should crack the polls this coming up week, according to how the weekend goes.
Yeah,
So
and the one loss for State is to Butler the other day, away from home, and typically
Well, they got our number.
they do, don't they? Well, and typically Butler's a really good program. And I was trying to look it up here to see. Okay, so
they're a tournament team almost every year.
Almost every year. You're right. And they're 6-1 right now. Their one loss was to Austin Peay, 68-66, so that don't look too good. They got a win over Northwestern. They beat Eastern Illinois last night badly. But see, Butler's got in 2 of their next 3 games, more bully, Butler's playing a couple of ranked teams in Houston and Wisconsin. Oh, get this. Hang on. Time out. Butler coming up. 1, 2, 3, 4 of their next 5 are ranked teams against Houston, Wisconsin, Marquette, and UConn. We're going to find out what that is.
Strength of schedule, we need them to at least take 3 of those.
Yeah.
At least 2. I don't know.
We need them to. We need them to,
Just to help us. Yeah. And by the way, I'm going to end with this. Murphy on the men's team is a beast.
Woo, boy.
Absolute beast.
He is
He had a game last night.
That is a great way to describe him. An absolute beast.
Yep.
He is a matchup nightmare if there ever was one.
And he's everywhere.
Kind of like you.
All right. Y'all have a good one.
You
Yep,
too.
that's me. That's me. That's the MWRE.
Oh, good way to end it. I left it open, and he just walked right through the door. Attaboy. It's me. It's me. It's the MWRE. What's the rest of those lyrics? Stick around.
Getting directions to the Christmas tree farm.
20 minutes away.
Sharing video.
I was born and raised in Greenville. I've always called Greenville home. This is where I, was raised, went to high school, graduated high school, worked all my life here, leading up to going to college. So even when I moved from Greenville, I always told people, they asked me where you're from, I always said I'm from Greenville. I have mother, father, brother, niece, aunt, all live here in Greenville. So this is home. This is where I, live, and I've just always called it home. Small town, I feel like I could walk in any place tomorrow and know 2 to 3 people in there. It's small town. Someone's on the side of the road broken down. Hey, you need a boost, flat tire, you need help changing it. That's just kind of what I love about this area, the blues and the food and everything that comes along with the Mississippi Delta that I love. I tell people all the time, my business cards have my cell phone number on them for a reason. Insurance doesn't happen from 8 to 5. When you need me, it's going to be after 5. It hardly ever happens where you have a wreck, get pulled over, need an insurance card, wind blows, shingles off your roof. All these things happen, and it's typically after 5. And so the ability for someone to call me, get in contact with me, text me, ask me a question, and that's what it's about to me, is helping the people that we serve, is taking care of people, and them knowing that they can count on me whenever they need me. I am Brian Street with Farm Bureau Insurance in Washington County, and we are your home team.
Y'all have heard me talk about Murray West and MurrayWest.com. They made the hat that I'm wearing. Got the Natchez Trace logo on it. I've told you a little bit about what they are. Contract embroidery company here in Mississippi. Started back in 1996, family owned. They do a phenomenal job, and I got to go visit their place up in New Albany. Let me show you a little bit about it. When I say they do quality stuff, they really do. And so custom apparel, team stuff, really and truly, just about every high school in the state is sending their embroidered, team gear, jackets, shirts, hats, stuff. Baseball teams, football teams, they're sending it to
The Zone 1059 and worldwide at thezone1059.com.
Back with you. Yeah, to more Bullies' point, Keyshawn Murphy did not start the game last night for State, but he came off the bench and played more minutes in the game than anybody else for the Bulldogs. And he finished, wait a minute, timeout. He did not play more minutes. He played the third most minutes of anyone off the bench, but he scored the most points. He came off the bench and scored 20, had 7 rebounds to go around along with 1 block shot in the game. He was perfect at the free throw line, did not take a 3-point shot. It was so good. And the thing about it is the majority of his rebounds were offensive rebounds. 4 of his 7 rebounds were offensive, goes for 20 points. Claudio Harris, also off the bench, had double figures, 10 points. He had a couple of threes, was 4 of 7, and played 19 minutes, had 1 turnover for a guy handling the basketball. Is really good. And that's another reason why State's, if you look at different parts of the game of basketball, you can see why State's winning because of what they're getting. Look at the guys that handle the basketball primarily for State. Like Josh Hubbard probably leads the country in minutes to turnover ratio. He's just not turning it over hardly at all. Last night, he did lead State, played 30 minutes of the 40-minute basketball game, had 1 turnover. Primarily handling the ball all the time, he's got 1 turnover. Claudio Harris comes in, he's handling the basketball a lot. And as I said, plays 19 minutes, he's got 1 turnover. So the ball handlers are taking care of it, distributing. Also, those 2, let's see, Harris had an assist. So they combined for 5 assists. And that's another thing that Josh Hubbard gives you. He went 2 of 6 from 3. So on a night, he didn't have to, but on a night when he's not firing up a bunch of threes and hitting a bunch of threes, he goes for 12 points in the ball game, but he goes 4 assists and 1 turnover in those 30 minutes, like a true point guard type of performance. He's not having to fire up threes, not playing catch up because you're leading the game, But Murphy was just, he is an animal. 6'10", long. His 1 block shot was on a 3-point attempt. Late in the shot clock, guys trying to fire it up, and he just rises, and Murphy doesn't even really have to go off the floor and bang, blocks it out of bounds. Nwoko just came to life last night. 18 points in 18 minutes. He's one of your starters, one of your 5 starters in the game. 18 points in 18 minutes, had 11 rebounds, 3 block shots. Melendez, the Georgia transfer, played 24 minutes. He's one of your starters. Had 10 points. He was 2 of 4 from 3. And again, as a team, they're 33% from 3, but 57% from the floor. And just controlled the game because of their defense and creating turnovers, points off turnovers, run-outs, and offensive rebounds. Yeah, they have 16 offensive rebounds, had a bunch of second-chance points in the ballgame. Out-rebounded Pittsburgh 49-27. Like, just a dominant game for State. And that's a good Pitt team. Now, you're going to play some that are better. And it's still, maybe I could be wrong, but it still feels like when State will run into some trouble sometimes is if, they run up on a team that's got a true 5, like feet in the paint, low block 5, center of your zone defense, fire-breathing 5 player. That is hard to stop on a defensive end. That might be where they run into trouble. And then you just, you're looking at trying to stay out of foul trouble and shoot the ball well on the other end and win a shootout. Let's see, more bully text to show, and he said CBS in their daily hoops poll has State's men at 20, I was just told. Coffee, Norman? I believe I'll have a sip of my coffee from High Point Roasters in New Albany, Mississippi. There you go, Coffee Norman. He says people forget Butler's a great basketball program. They played in the national championship game in 2010 and 11, narrowly losing to Duke by 2. And the next year they lost to UConn by 12. They did get there a couple of times, right? Play in the old gym, the old storied gym. Yeah, but what I was looking at there, is interesting to me because you look at what State's got coming up in December. I'll give it to you here. So here's what State's got coming up in December. Prairie View, McNeese, Central Michigan on the 17th, and then that big game on the 21st, just before Christmas, at Memphis. Memphis right now, they get them ranked up there close to a top 15 deal, and they'll wrap up December against Bethune-Cookman. So what's left for State, some winnable games and that one real sure enough, real deal matchup with that Memphis squad. You look at what Memphis has done. They are 7-1. Their only loss was to Auburn, and they got whipped pretty good. That was a 14-point loss to Auburn. Their wins are over Missouri by 8, UNLV by 6. They beat Ohio by 24. Beat San Francisco by 4, low-scoring game. They had the unbelievable game and win over UConn, 99-97. They beat Michigan State by 8, 71-63. Then the loss to Auburn. Turned around, had a 10-point win over La Tech. Before Memphis plays Mississippi State later this month, they got 3 games in front of that. They're about to host Arkansas State, then they hit the road. They go to Clemson, who we know Clemson beat Kentucky this week, and then they go to Virginia. Virginia just lost last night to who? Was it Florida, maybe? So there's 2 ACC games in there before hosting Mississippi State. And they're actually, Memphis is going to host State and Ole Miss back-to-back. They host State on the 21st before Christmas, and then after Christmas they host Ole Miss. There's some primetime stuff in the non-conference coming up for Memphis. They have tried to schedule as heavily as they could to help themselves in a non-conference, and they're good. So that's a big one for State, right? Memphis coming up. The reason you look at what, you can look, it's early, it's pre-conference here. If you look at what State's got left in December, they've set themselves up. State's sitting here at 7-1. They'll rank them, for whatever that's worth. winnable games like, A&M, McNeese, and stuff coming up. But they do have Memphis. Another big resume opportunity on the 21st of December. Go to Memphis. Okay, and let's just go hypothetical here. To your point, Coffee Norman, if we go hypothetical here, let's say State runs off nothing but wins the remainder of December. Like, just what if? What if State goes for the remainder of December on a 5-game win streak with wins over A&M, McNeese, Central Michigan, beat Memphis, which would be huge. It's on the road. Let's just say they do it, and then finish out the year beating Bethune-Cookman. They'd be sitting there 12-1 with wins over Utah, SMU, Pittsburgh, and Memphis. That's, again, an if, with a loss to Butler. And everybody's going to then look and go, what about this Butler loss? Just like Moore Bully was saying, how's it look on your resume? You got this loss to Butler. Well, like I said, look at what Butler's got remaining the month of December. Huge games. Here's the next 5-game stretch for Butler to finish out. And Butler is 7-1, one of the wins over State. Their one loss to Austin Peay by 2 points, 68-66 early in the year. They go, this is what the 5-game stretch for them to finish out the year. At Houston this weekend. That's a top 20 team. Host North Dakota State. Host Wisconsin, currently ranked 11th. At Marquette, currently ranked in the top 10. And finish out the year, Butler's going to host UConn, who we know they're defending champs. At one point, they were ranked highly. Right now, they got them at 25, because they lost some games. But, I mean, Houston, North Dakota State, Wisconsin, Marquette, UConn, 4 of the 5. That's huge. All right. We'll finish out the day with a quick phone call from Wayne on line 1. Wayne, thanks for calling and being patient. What's up, Wayne?
Yes, sir. How's it going?
Great.
I thought the girls looked good the other day. Did you know if Chris Sale, what he ever did with the Braves?
I don't know. I don't know what his status is.
Okay, I got one more question. Are they going to have those football games on TV, or you got to listen to them on the radio?
Listen to them on this radio station. All of them will be on, including starting this afternoon. And if you want to watch them, Wayne, you're going to have to find a local TV affiliate. There are some local television stations in different markets that are carrying some of those games on the actual television. You know what I'm saying? Like I live in Tupelo, for instance, and the Columbus TV station, WCBI, that does local news out of Columbus, they're going to carry the Tupelo game. They may carry all of them for all I know, but you got to find a station like that. There may be one close to where you live.
Okay, I need to get you and Beaver some syrup, man, get it to him.
Yeah, we can do that. When you get it ready, hit us back, and I'll shoot you an address. I'd love to have it. Thank you.
Okay, now, y'all have a great one.
All right, you too. Thanks for the call. And Wayne, my fault on waiting. I know the music's cutting us off, but call me back tomorrow. We can pick up the conversation. I'll make sure, and I'll come and meet you and get my hands on it if we need to. Thank you for the offer. For Beaver, I'm Matt. See you tomorrow. See you.
A lot of people are looking for